Good morning, Anne Marie.
Good morning, friend. How are you today?
Doing well. I'm loving the necklace and the entire look today. You're looking
So
fabulous.
much pineapple today.
So many
Sparkly
pineapples.
pineapple. It's Sparkly Pineapple Monday, as it
I love
happens.
it. So I want to talk a little bit about a piece that you wrote and posted on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago now that I know is deeply personal to you that got a tremendous response. Those of you watching the video, Anne Marie's, her mother passed away. It's been 3 weeks. Has it been 3 weeks
It's been
now?
almost a month. Yeah, it's been almost a
Yeah.
month. Yeah.
And Anne Marie cared for her in her home until the end of her life and gave her a really, really beautiful death and in accordance with her wishes. And that's, of course, deeply personal. I mean, I think for some of you watching this, me even saying those words, you're probably like tightening up a little bit, right? It's a tough topic to talk about. And it's a tough topic, I think, for some to sort of be a spectator to, right? And to feel to read about, right? And so you wrote this piece on LinkedIn about sort of the intersection of work and life and death against the backdrop of a pandemic. And you got a really incredible response. So I would love to hear from you about sort of what prompted you to write that and what the act of putting that out there in the world was like for you.
Yeah, so we talk a lot in our training about this idea of narrative vulnerability. And when stories don't have narrative vulnerability, they don't have the same impact and power. We also talk a lot about radically reimagining executive presence. And one of the things that I think about a lot is this idea of this hyper professional facade that's manufactured to be impenetrable at all times, in my opinion, is in the way of leadership, is in the way of connectivity and real relationships. And what I always say is, listen, somebody you are working with right now has a parent who is dying, a kid maybe who's a drug addict, is going through a divorce, is suffering depression, a myriad of things, is losing their family pet. These things are existing side by side with working. And for me, as you know, I'm very, for those of you listening, I have the greatest business partner in the world who was like, listen, if you don't want to do a human for 2 months, I'll do it. Like, you don't have to talk to anybody. But I didn't want to do that. Work is important. And I didn't also want to place all the burden on Holly. And so I had conversations. And when I did with people, I would say to them, you know, that sounds great. These dates are lovely. And also, I just want you to, right now, as we speak, my mother is dying downstairs in my living room. And I don't know that I can come to these dates. And what happened was, people were not like, oh my gosh, how can she talk about this? What happened was people said, oh my gosh, thank you for telling us that. What a generous thing to do, which is a really interesting word. And what it was is they had had some similar story, and it went around pretending like it wasn't happening.
Right.
So they were grieving and struggling and silent. And the thing that we always talk about is nobody leaves a company just for more money and a bigger title. They leave because they don't feel seen and heard. And when we allow people to be their full selves, they're seen and heard. And it didn't bar me from doing our job. My job. We're still clients. So I just think that this idea that we can get rid of the fact that we have children, we have parents, we have struggles, and we're supposed to work outside of that is counterproductive to being a whole productive professional.
Well, I think one of the, I've long admired you before we were friends or business partners, right? And I think one of the reasons I've always enjoyed your writing is that you do infuse sort of this staid corporate, environment with some humanity. And in fact, somebody gave you that response, right? Regarding your piece. Talk to me a little bit about the responses that you got from posting this piece on LinkedIn, which, by the way, people don't typically view LinkedIn as a place to share such personal stories. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so people were talking about things like someone had mentioned this idea of corporate humanity. Her name is Lori Cunningham. Lori, if you're listening, please comment below. And I thought that was such a beautiful phrase, this idea that just because we're in a corporate environment doesn't mean we can't have humanity. And I just want to be super clear to everyone watching. When I write or when I talk about this in training or in conversation, I talk about it as I'm talking right now. And what I mean is I'm not crying, I'm not falling apart, but I'm just being super honest. Nobody is emotionally responsible for me. That's not the goal of this. I'm not looking for comfort. I'm not looking for people to take care of me. What I am trying to do is let people understand this too is part of who I am. And I'm able to do all the things I'm doing, but I'm also having this struggle over here. And I want you to know as a leader, when you encounter somebody that maybe is not having their best day, that they have some invisible struggle. And a lot of the response I got was about people who had lost their parents or who had gone through a really difficult time and didn't have a place professionally to place that struggle. There was no real estate in the professional environment to say, I'm going through a really rough divorce, or my parent is dying, or I just had to put our family dog down of 15 years. Those are really heartbreaking moments. And I think people were just grateful that somebody was like, I mean, it's not like we don't know this, right? Like, we're all gonna die. I mean, I'm not the first one to like come up with this, but the idea that we can be a little more transparent and have a little humanity, I think does the opposite of what everybody thinks it does. I think everybody thinks that somehow it compromises your professionalism. And in fact, what it does is it builds greater connectivity and trust, and it makes you more of a human.
It's this idea of shared experience too, right? I mean, I think as a leader, regardless of whether you are in the C-suite or whether you're managing a team of 2 people, you know, yourself included, if you're able to infuse some of your own personal experiences into your day-to-day interactions with the folks that you work with, that builds incredible trust, that builds loyalty, that makes people feel like they're able to show up as their whole selves, right? Not just sort of compartmentalize into, okay, this is professional Holly. Do I look professional? This is professional Holly and this is personal Holly, right? And I think, you know, through all of our work in coaching, we see this. I mean, there's this very common thought, an assumption, again, associated with executive presence very closely, that to be perceived as professional, as a leader, as adept at your job, you must only show up as one thing and be perfect, right? And I just, you know, I loved that you posted, it made me so proud as your business partner that you were willing to do that and share that piece of yourself. And the response was just tremendous. I mean, people you don't even know are sending you messages thanking you for this piece, which I just think is such an incredible testament to this idea of narrative vulnerability.
Yeah, and I think the idea of leadership and executive presence is not perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think perfectionism, where did we get this idea that perfectionism means that there's no humanity and that there's no truth? It's the opposite of that. Perfectionism is an absolute of truth. It's a lie. No one is perfect. And so when you are sort of portraying this perfectionism, you are portraying a version of yourself that not only can no one else live up to, but neither can you. We all struggle. We all have some place in our lives that is imperfect, that is, you know, that is rooted in suffering. To be human is to suffer. And I just think when we bring that to the forefront, what it allows us to do and enables us to do is to connect more deeply with those we're living with, our clients, with, I mean, I think people were most shocked that I shared it with our clients and that you were fine with that too. And it was like, well, this is the reality of what's happening in, by the way, a freaking pandemic.
Yeah.
And how are we going to function and build a business if there's no space? Like, I don't want to run around and have my laptop in the bathroom, right? Be like, hi, everybody. No, it's great. Everything's fine. When
everything's totally fine.
Absolutely not fine. It's absolutely not fine. But not being fine doesn't mean I can't still function and don't have something to offer and can't provide good work. It just means, please understand that I'm in struggle as I do the work that I've always done.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah, and this idea of sort of showing up as our whole selves infuses a new program that we are rolling out in January that we want to tell you all about today. Yes, it's called Verdant, which, let's be honest, we all could use some verdant lushness in 2021. Am I right?
Hence my pineapple necklace.
Hence your pineapple. Thank you for staying on theme. I will do it so in the next video. I'll go find some fabulous piece of verdant jewelry. But the program is a 1-year training cohort for those of you out there that are looking to take complete control of your professional and personal life. So every month we are going to be focusing on topics that are very specific to professional development, things like executive presence, things like the power of belief systems and cognitive behavior and why that matters for everything that you do as a person, work or otherwise. And we will be talking about things like narrative vulnerability and why that matters for leadership. Every month will be highly focused. These will be 90-minute sessions that we'll be doing on Zoom. There's a whole lot of other stuff that comes with it. And you get to see our faces for 90 minutes once a month, which I feel like is fabulous, right? Am I right? But you can learn all about this program on our website. There's a separate tab for Verdant. And we would love to tell you more about it and have you learn more about it. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Brent.
Your narrative vulnerability and your leadership and your partnership. And check out our other videos here on YouTube, Story Imprinting everywhere on the internet. Have a great day, all.
Bye.